Eddie, a year ago we were in Saudi. AJ's career was hanging in the balance. Do you have the same fear factor ahead of this one with Pulev?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Because in this division, you just never know what's going to happen. You know, we kind of get to a point where, and before Andy Ruiz, it was like, we're trying to make the Deontay Wilder fight, just win this fight, and then everything just unravels before your eyes. So now it feels like deja vu almost, that we're in a situation where, yes, the Tyson Fury fight seems so close, but before us is another dangerous challenger in Pulev. Probably people would give Pulev more chance in this fight than they did when Andy Ruiz got through the ropes at Madison Square Garden. So very nervous, just the surroundings, the environment. Yes, we know we've got 1,000 fans back in, but it's just not the same kind of environment that we've been used to since the professional debut of Anthony Joshua. And I think this is a real challenge.
He's always had huge crowds, none more so than when he fought Vladimir Klitschko just over there with 90,000. And obviously it's great to have the 1,000 in, but we know he came and watched the Usyk Chisora fight. It is extremely different. Bubble life is very different. That makes you slightly edgy, as well as the fact that a number of upsets have happened this year?
Yeah, I just think that, as you've experienced in that environment on that night, it just feels that anything could happen. We've seen upsets in fight camp, we've seen upsets in the match in residency at the SSE Arena. But part of me as well feels that he's going to shine. The improvements that he's made, the experiences that he's had, put him in great stead for a dominating performance. But it still comes down to Kubrat Pulev, undefeated for many years, last roll of the dice, big chance. Seems that every time you fight Anthony Joshua, you step up to the plate because it's your golden opportunity. And there has always been a huge target on his head, and there always comes huge pressure when that target exists.
It's been the strangest, the hardest of years. Do we all need AJ back?
Yeah, listen, we need excitement, we need fun, we need star quality. That's what we need, and it doesn't come any bigger than Anthony Joshua. We've seen him revolutionise the sport over the last few years. We've seen him drive numbers that we never knew existed. But boxing needs AJ back. British sport needs AJ back. World boxing needs Anthony Joshua back, because no one entertains like him in the division. He's showed vulnerabilities, he's shown raw power, he's shown skill, he's shown strength. But now I think you're going to see a lot of the qualities rolled into one for a really good performance. And whilst part of me is extremely nervous, part of me is really hopeful that you're going to see a fantastic display.
Eddie, he's recovered from defeat before. Does he recognise the consequences of another loss at this critical stage?
Yeah, I don't think he puts that kind of pressure on himself. I think he just knows, losing is not an option right now. It really isn't, because we're on the verge of the ultimate dream. And the ultimate dream is undisputed heavyweight world champion. And the acceptance of everybody, without question and without doubt, that you are the best heavyweight in the world. You are the baddest man on the planet. And that is what he's been after since he turned pro. And if he beats Kubrat Pulev, he's one fight away from no arguments, from absolutely no doubt who the best is. And that comes from the winner of that fight. But he also recognises that when you fight any top 5 or top 10 guy, Pulev is banging that list, you have to be focusing on that performance. So, there is pressure, but ultimately he knows that what's coming beyond this fight is everything, but he must deal with the challenge on December 12th.
But hasn't everything changed again? Earlier this year, a lot of shouting out about Fury, AJ being made, a couple of fights, and just got a few things to sort out. But if they do beat Wilder and Pulev, those two happen in 2021. But now we don't know what's going to happen with Fury and Wilder. He doesn't fight this year. Alexander Usyk is waiting for his shot. Obviously, there was an upset last weekend with Joe Joyce into the picture. Dillian White's got his rematch with Povetkin. It's just, there's a whole load of balls still sort of flying around, aren't there? And do we know that if he does beat Pulev, it will be Fury next?
Yeah, that's the ultimate ultimate focus of everybody. And, you know, we will talk over the next couple of weeks to try and get that in some kind of position. But ultimately, as soon as victory presents itself on December 12th, all the attention moves to the Tyson Fury fight. That fight, we are committed to that fight. We know the terms of that fight. We accept the terms of that fight. So does Tyson Fury. Now we've got to, you know, dot the I's and cross the T's and get it over the line, get it announced, get it up and running, decide where it's going to be. But ultimately, it's been a roller coaster year in so many different ways. And AJ hasn't even boxed yet this year. So we want to end this year with a big bang, a great performance, and to get everybody excited to say this is the biggest fight ever with Fury AJ. You know, certainly it will never get any bigger than this for British boxing. It's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. It may be one of, if not the biggest fight of all time it rolls round. And if he can put in the performance that I believe he will, people are going to be even more excited to see that fight in 2021.
You're in regular contact with Pulev's team. They are bullish. What do you think they see in AJ that has instilled that confidence?
I think he made a good point, you know, on a Zoom call earlier this week with the media. He said, you know, everyone seems to say, you know, AJ's beatable, AJ's got vulnerabilities, AJ's got weaknesses, AJ can't box, AJ can't do this. But when you get in there and you get a jab right hand off Anthony Joshua, the game changes completely. I think they look back, you know, at the Andy Ruiz fight. You know, they might look at the Klitschko fight. They might look at the Dillian Whyte first fight and say, oh, he can be hurt. All heavyweights can be hurt. But I just believe that the improvements that he's constantly making, you will see them on December 12th. I think he's a different fighter. You know, you've been up to camp, you saw him spar, we had the conversation. He said, you know, when I was fighting Klitschko and Takam and Parker, I didn't really know what I was doing. It is bizarre for someone to say that. He was a complete novice, you know, and now he's a seasoned fighter. He's 30 years old, you know, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's wiser. He's had his ups and downs, he's been down, he's got up, he's had defeats. And he's just become an all-round fighter now. And again, you'll see that on the 12th. I'm very confident of that.
Pulev was set to fight AJ before, obviously, back in October 2017. How do you look back on those manic days when Carlos Takam came in and the late change? And will we see a different version of Pulev to what we would have seen then?
Although it's a couple of years on, I don't think you'll see much of a different version. I mean, you've got someone now who, even though through the pandemic, has been active over the years, you know, with his top-ranked deal with Bob Arum. Those times were crazy because someone just said to me, just be careful whether this guy turns up. It was a very strange thing to say to me, and it just made me click into gear, click into action and say, I better just have someone standing by. And thank the Lord, we did. And it was Carlos Takam who stepped in at 10 days' notice, although he was training for a fight in Monaco with us. And it all worked out wonderfully well. This time around, there is no replacement. You know, so, but also, there is a huge amount of money in the pot for Kubrat Pulev, and there is a huge opportunity. So he will be there. But back then, it was crazy times. You know, to be honest with you, whilst AJ said he didn't know what he was doing, probably we didn't know what we was doing some of the time. And you learn, and you expand, and you improve, and that's what he's done, we've done. And we're a well-oiled machine together. We're a great team. And I truly believe he's the best heavyweight in the world, and he's going to continue to show that.
Anthony's been speaking to Vladimir Klitschko in recent weeks. Could he attempt to emulate the former king with a ruthless early win over Pulev? Do you think that it may be the intention to get him out quickly? I
think if he hurts Pulev, he'll jump on him, and he could hurt him at any moment because he carries that power and he carries that speed. I think you're going to see him dissect Pulev. I think you're going to see, I mean, it's a classic battle of the jabs early on. Kubrat Pulev has a fantastic jab. Very, very good. I was watching it last night. I was actually speaking to AJ about it as well. I think that sometimes Pulev likes to dictate the pace by making your rhythm disruptive. And Klitschko did that very well. And I think early on, almost AJ gave Klitschko too much respect in their fight. And I think AJ's got to be careful not to do that with Pulev. He's got to take his chances when they come. He's got to take his time. But when they present themselves, he's got to make them count. He's got to be rough on the inside. He's got to beat him up on the inside. He has marked up over the years, Kubrat Pulev, and I think AJ's jab and his sharpness will cut that face up, and I think he'll wear him down. and then I believe you'll see him brutally knock him out. I think this is going to be a brutal performance. You know, you've seen over the years AJ so exciting, and then in Saudi he had to follow a game plan. You know, he even come out of the ring and said, "Was that a bit boring? You know, I wanted to knock him out." I said, "No, you've done your job." But things have changed a little bit now. He's got that spite back, and I think he's going to break him down, beat him up, and then knock him out.
Tyson Fury could be at ringside for the fight. Is that intentional mind games from AJ's rival, or is he setting the scene for the undisputed fight?
I think he probably wants to see it. You know, if I'm, a fighter and I'm fighting someone, you want to see him up close. Don't forget, Anthony Joshua came to watch Alexander Usyk, didn't he? Not just because he was friends with Chisora, but the fact that he might be fighting Usyk at some stage. So I think Fury probably wants to see it in the flesh. He's more than welcome to attend. He'll probably have his fingers crossed as well, like we all will. And if he can get the job done, the business done, maybe those two can get in the ring after and have a little chat and confirm that we're all good to go.
Joshua has suggested that Fury needs him to fill a huge arena. Does AJ remain Britain's biggest marquee star despite Fury's comeback and achievements?
I don't think you can really win in that argument, can you? I mean, for me, look, globally, AJ is in another planet to Anthony Joshua commercially. Fury is a huge star here as well. He's a big star in America. But the fact remains is they couldn't get the money together to fight this year. So that kind of tells you what you need to know. But you do have to give him the respect, not just for his popularity, but because of his performances. And, many times in the past, we offered Wilder and Fury 60-40, and I felt that's all they deserved. Now Tyson gets his 50-50, and he's earned that. He had a great win over Deontay Wilder. Ultimately, I think that Fury needs AJ to make that kind of money, but AJ needs Fury for that final piece of the jigsaw. So all in all, it's a match made in heaven.
How early can it be made? Can it really happen if all goes well on December the 12th, thinking obviously what's happening with Team Wilder and the world?
I think Wilder's said already that he's going to box at end of January, early February, and he's looking at opponents already. So for me, let's make it straight away. No excuses why that fight shouldn't be made. Everybody wants it, and I don't see any way it doesn't get made. All AJ's got to do is do the business against Kubrat Pulev.
You think it's that close?
I do, because you just know when people want to make a fight, it gets done. And there is no one on their side that doesn't want that fight, and there is no one on our side that doesn't want that fight. So let's get it signed, let's find the venue, and let's make it happen.
Have you got a message to Tyson Fury if he's thinking about coming down to Wembley?
You're welcome, you big dosser. No, he's always welcome. I think he's a character. I love Tyson Fury. I think what he's done is incredible. I just always believed that Anthony Joshua will knock him out, but he's always welcome at Wembley, around my gaff for a bit of Sunday lunch if he fancies it as well. Great heavyweight, great champion, two great champions, one amazing fight.
Dillian Whyte's waiting for the rescheduled fight with Povetkin. Do you have a contingency plan if the Russian's not ready for January the 30th? What's the latest on that?
So he's back training. He's not in full training yet, and I think they're just keeping an eye on him. If there is a delay, you're talking 2 weeks. It's not like there's any big concern that it's going to go into March and April. We are still focusing on January the 30th, so are Team Povetkin. If they feel they need an extra week or two, it's not the end of the world, but ultimately it's still our focus to deliver that fight on January the 30th.
So that will be the first sort of big heavyweight night of 2020.
Yes, coupled in with Josh Kelly against Avanesian and also Josh Warrington against Kanzu. They'll be our first opening shows of 2021, and they'll probably end up with Whyte Povetkin, if there is a small delay, being on the back of that run. So another blazing start to the year.
I've just caught him at the corner of my eye, the picture of Derek Chisora over there. What's next for him? Obviously he emerged with plenty of kudos and pride from the Alexander Usyk fight.
He's always in great fights, isn't he? And I think he loves fighting. He loves challenging himself. He loves being part of these big nights, and he's always in great fights. So the search goes on for the new Derek Chisora opponent, and I think you'll see him in March or April time.
And finally, obviously, a lot of people have had a lot to say about what happened between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. I like to focus on the winner, the underdog who came through. What would you like to see Joe in the next sort of year or two? Who would you like to see him matched with if you were guiding him?
Well, I think he's good to go, isn't he? You know, he's getting on. He's mid-30s now. There's no secret they want to move him quickly. I think because they've moved him quickly, that was one of the reasons he won the fight, because he's boxed, Bryant Jennings, and he's boxed in America, and he's had all that experience, and he was just too good for Daniel Dubois. I think they look for the rematch with Usyk. Obviously, they boxed him in the WSB and lost, and they'll want Joe Joyce to fight for a world title at some point. And I've said before, although he might not look like the second coming of Ali, he's extremely effective. He's very tough. He's very strong. He has a great chin. He has a great engine, and he's a nice bloke. And I think you're right. I think all the talk of Dubois giving up and that kind of stuff, that will always be a debate in boxing. But one thing we shouldn't debate is it was a great performance from Joe Joyce and another welcome to the bigger heavyweight scene.
And finally, if you've got 30 seconds to sum up what we're going to experience next week with Anthony Joshua here, with Kubrat Pulev here, with the biggest event of 2020 for us, what would it be, Eddie?
Well, make sure you got enough nails to bite, because every AJ fight is like that. You're going to see the best heavyweight in the world against top 5 heavyweight in the world in a dangerous fight, but you're going to see the things that he's worked on, the things that he's improved on, and you're going to see brutality from Anthony Joshua. You're also going to see a great card, by the way. You're going to see Lawrence Okoli stepping up well beyond the levels to try and become Britain's latest world champion. You're going to see a great heavyweight fight between Hughie Fury and Maris Wack. Another great heavyweight fight between Bakoli against Kuzmin as well. So a great night, culminated in the biggest star of the sport. There's no one like AJ. And we just cross our fingers and hope that he puts in the performance we believe he will, and then move on to the undisputed in 2021.